Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Whatever you point your attention at grows. This is not a philosophy. This is not a motivational concept dressed up to sound profound. This is the most practical and verifiable truth about how human beings move through the world, and most people are using it against themselves every single day without knowing it. The mind does not record reality. It constructs it. It takes the infinite amount of information available in any given moment and filters it down to the small slice that is relevant to whatever it is currently pointed at, which means the reality you experience is not the reality that exists. It is the reality your focus has selected for you out of everything that was available. Point your focus at everything wrong with your life, and your mind will find evidence everywhere it looks. Point it at what is being built, what is possible, what is moving, and the same world that looked like a dead end starts revealing exits you walked past 100 times without seeing them. The average person wakes up and immediately hands their focus to something outside themselves. The phone on the nightstand receives the first moments of conscious attention before the person has even decided who they are that day. The news, the notifications, the opinions of strangers about events happening in places they cannot influence, all of it pours into the mind in the first 10 minutes of waking and begins constructing the reality that person will inhabit for the rest of the day. And then they wonder why the day feels reactive, why it feels like something they are surviving rather than something they are directing. They do not have a motivation problem or a discipline problem or a productivity problem. They have a focus problem. They gave the most valuable real estate in their entire day, which is the first moments of consciousness, to something that has nothing to do with their life, their goals, their vision, or the person they are trying to become. You cannot build your life with attention you already gave away. There is a reason that two people can stand in the exact same circumstances and walk away with completely different experiences of those circumstances. Same economy, same limitations on paper. One person sees obstacles at every turn and spends their energy managing the weight of everything that is working against them. The other person moves through the same environment and finds angles, opportunities, connections, and forward movement that the first person would swear were not there. The difference is not luck. It is not talent. It is not privilege in most cases. It is what each person's focus is trained on. The first person's mind is running a program that scans for threats, for limitations, for reasons why the thing cannot be done, and it finds them because that is what it is looking for. The second person's mind is running a different program, and it finds different things in the same space. Your focus is the program, and you can rewrite it. The goals you hold in your mind are not just motivational targets, they are filters. When you have a clear and specific goal that you return to consistently, your brain begins to notice everything in your environment that is relevant to that goal. This is called the reticular activating system, and it is the neurological reason why the moment you decide to buy a specific car, you suddenly see that car everywhere. The car was always there. Your brain was not previously flagging it as relevant. The moment relevance was established, it started appearing. This is happening with your goals right now, whether you are directing it or not. If your dominant mental preoccupation is the problem you are stuck in, your brain is flagging everything relevant to that problem. More evidence of it, more reminders of it, more confirmation that it is as large as it feels. But if your dominant mental preoccupation is the goal you are moving toward, the same mechanism starts flagging something entirely different. The path starts appearing inside the same environment that previously looked like a wall. Most people treat focus like a passive experience. They treat it as something that happens to them, rather than something they do. They say, "I cannot stop thinking about the problem," as though thought is a weather event they are caught in rather than a process they have the ability to redirect. And this passivity is where years disappear. The mind left to its own devices does not naturally drift toward your highest potential. It drifts toward the familiar, toward the unresolved, toward the loudest unfinished loop it can find. It is not trying to sabotage you. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is flag what is unresolved so you can resolve it. But if you never consciously take the wheel and redirect it toward what you are building, rather than what you are avoiding, you spend your entire life in the grip of a navigation system that is running someone else's destination. Consciousness is the ability to choose what the mind points at. Most people never use it. The environment you put yourself in is the most powerful focus tool available to you, and most people treat it as decoration. The room you work in, the people you spend your hours with, the content that fills your eyes and ears in the margins of your day, the conversations you participate in, the problems you volunteer your attention toward, all of it is either pulling your focus toward your life or away from it. There is no neutral environment. Every environment is doing something to your attention. The question is whether it is doing something useful. When you walk into a room full of people who are building things, your mind starts building things. When you consume material produced by people who are operating at a level above where you currently are, your sense of what is possible quietly expands. You do not need to knuckle your way into better focus through sheer willpower. You need to build an environment where the focus you want is the natural result of simply being present in it. Nobody sat down at 10 years old and wrote this down as the plan. Nobody looked out at the world with fresh eyes and said that what they wanted most was to trade the majority of their waking hours to a building they did not choose, for work they did not design, toward a goal that belonged to someone else. Nobody dreamed of the commute. Nobody dreamed of the Sunday dread that arrives like clockwork every week. That particular heaviness that settles in around 6 p.m. when the weekend is dissolving and the machinery of the week is warming up again. Nobody dreamed of the 40 years of that. And yet the world is full of people living exactly that life, not because they chose it with intention, but because they never stopped to question the current they were swimming in. The current felt like everyone else was in it. The current felt like the natural direction of things. And by the time you realize a current is carrying you somewhere you never wanted to go, you are already very far from where you started. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you worked. It is the exhaustion that comes from spending enormous energy on things that do not matter to you. A person can work 40 hours a week on something they built and feel more alive at the end of it than they did at the beginning. That same person working 40 hours on something assigned to them by someone who does not know their name will feel hollowed out by Wednesday. The hours are the same. The exhaustion is completely different in nature. One is the tiredness of a person who spent themselves on something real. The other is the tiredness of a person whose energy was extracted from them and applied to someone else's vision. Most people walking around tired all the time are not tired because they worked too much. They are tired because the work they did had no connection to anything they actually care about. That disconnection is physically and psychologically draining in a way that sleep cannot fix. Mindless entertainment is not the enemy. Rest is real and the need for it is real, and there is nothing wrong with a mind that wants to decompress after a day of genuine effort. The problem is what happens when the entertainment stops being rest and becomes escape. When it stops being something you choose after the work is done and becomes something you reach for instead of doing the work. When the hours in front of the screen stop being recovery and start being avoidance of the quiet where the real questions live. Because in the quiet, the questions are always waiting. In the quiet, the gap between the life you are living and the life you know you are capable of living becomes audible. The entertainment is volume turned up against that gap, and you can keep turning the volume up. The technology will keep giving you more content than you could consume in 1,000 lifetimes. But the gap does not close because you stopped listening to it. It widens, quietly, constantly. While the screen keeps glowing, the dreams did not disappear. This is what makes it so heavy when people finally stop and look. The dreams did not leave. They did not decide on their own that they were unrealistic and excuse themselves politely. They are still there, underneath everything, in the same place they were when you were younger, and the world had not yet taught you to be embarrassed by them. You can feel them sometimes in the specific jealousy you feel when you see someone doing the thing you always said you would do. That jealousy is not petty. It is information. It is the dream reminding you that it is still alive, still waiting, still entirely possible in a way that you have convinced yourself it is not. The convincing took years. It required the steady accumulation of compromises, each one small enough to feel reasonable at the time, each one adding another layer of distance between you and the thing you actually came here to do. The dream is not gone, it is buried, and you put it there one practical decision at a time. The mechanism that produces this life is not malicious. That is what makes it so effective. Nobody designed a conspiracy to steal your potential. The system does not need malice to produce the result. It only needs defaults. Go to school because that is what comes after childhood. Get the job because that is what comes after school. Keep the job because that is what comes after getting it. Fill the evenings with whatever requires the least from you, because the job took what it needed and left the rest wanting rest. Repeat until the years have a shape you did not draw. The defaults are not evil. They are just indifferent to your particular potential. They are built for the average outcome, and they produce it reliably. The only way out of the default is a conscious interruption of it. A deliberate moment where you look at the current and decide to swim in a different direction, even though the current is strong and everyone else seems content to let it carry them. Time operates differently than people expect it to, and the difference is what makes this trap so complete. A single week of the default life feels manageable. Even a year of it feels like something you are moving through on the way to something else. But 10 years of it has a weight that is genuinely difficult to describe to someone who has not felt it yet. 10 years of deferred living, of put-off projects, of dreams managed into silence, of potential left on the table in exchange for the comfort of the familiar, produces a specific kind of grief that is unlike the grief of losing something external. It is the grief of losing something internal, the grief of a version of yourself that existed in possibility and was never allowed to exist in reality. And the cruel part is that this grief arrives quietly, not with a single devastating moment, but with a slow dawning. A morning where the math of your age and your ambitions finally becomes impossible to ignore. Waking up wondering where the time went is not a moment. It is a process. It arrives in stages, usually beginning with small recognitions that grow impossible to suppress. The colleague 10 years younger who is further along than you expected to be at this point. The reunion where the gap between what you said you would do and what you did becomes visible in a room full of people who knew you before the compromises started. The birthday that carries a number you did not expect to arrive without more to show for it. These moments are not punishments. They are the accumulation of small choices finally becoming large enough to see clearly. They are the compounded cost of all the mornings when the dream was deferred in favor of the manageable, the safe, the expected. And they serve a purpose if you let them. They are the universe holding up a mirror at an angle that makes avoidance impossible. The question is whether you look into it honestly or find a new way to look away. The most profitable human being on the planet is not the one who knows exactly what they want. It is the one who has no idea. A person who knows what they want is a person who can evaluate every product, every platform, every offer, every invitation against a clear internal standard and say yes or no with conviction. They are a terrible consumer. They are nearly impossible to manipulate. They are immune to the most sophisticated marketing ever created because sophisticated marketing operates by inserting itself into the gap between who you are and who you wish you were. And a person with a clear sense of purpose and direction has no gap large enough to insert anything into. But a person who does not know what they want is a person with an enormous gap, an infinite gap, a gap that the entire machinery of modern commerce was built to fill with products that promise to close it while actually depending on it staying open. Your confusion is not a personal failing. It is an economic resource, and it is being harvested every single day. The education system was not designed to help you figure out what you want from your life. This is not a cynical reading of it. It is simply an accurate one. The system was built during the industrial era to produce a specific kind of human output, which was a person capable of following instructions reliably, showing up on time consistently, and fitting into a predetermined role without requiring too much individual accommodation. Those are not the qualities of a person who knows what they want. Those are the qualities of a person who has learned to want what the system needs them to want, and the system is very good at producing that result. 12 to 16 years of being told what to learn, when to learn it, how to demonstrate that you learned it, and what grade your learning deserves produces a person who is deeply skilled at performing tasks assigned by external authorities and deeply unskilled at generating direction from the inside. You graduated knowing how to answer questions. Nobody asked whether you knew how to ask the right ones. Advertising is the most visible part of the machine, and it operates on a principle so simple that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every advertisement is built on the same foundation, which is the suggestion that you are currently incomplete and that the product being offered is the missing piece. The car advertisement does not sell transportation. It sells the identity of the person driving the car. The fragrance advertisement does not sell a smell. It sells the romantic life of the person wearing it. The supplement advertisement does not sell a capsule. It sells the body and the confidence and the admiration of the person who takes it. None of these promises are accidental. They are the result of billions of dollars and decades of psychological research applied to the single question of how to make a person feel that they are not enough as they currently are. And it works almost universally on people who do not have a strong internal answer to the question of who they are and what they are actually trying to build with their life. The news operates on the same mechanism as advertising, but with a different product. Instead of selling you an identity through consumption, It sells you a sense of purpose through outrage. A person who does not know what they want out of their own life is a person with unfocused energy, and unfocused energy is deeply uncomfortable. It needs somewhere to go. The news provides a destination. It gives that energy a cause, a villain, an urgent problem that demands your attention and your emotional investment. And the investment feels meaningful because the problem is real and the stakes are high, and caring about it feels like being a person who matters. But the caring that the news sells you is a specific kind of caring that never resolves into action you can actually take. It is caring designed to keep you watching, to keep the emotional loop open, to keep the outrage fresh enough that you come back tomorrow for the next installment. A person with a clear vision for their own life has somewhere specific to put their energy. The news has almost nothing to offer them. The social media platform is the most refined version of this machine ever built because it solved a problem that advertising and news could not fully solve, which is the problem of personal relevance. A billboard cannot know what you are insecure about. A television advertisement has to guess at what the audience wants to feel. But a platform that watches every choice you make, every post you linger on, every topic that pulls your attention for a half-second longer than the others, that platform builds a model of your specific gap and fills your feed with content precisely calibrated to that gap. It knows what you wish your body looked like. It knows the lifestyle that makes you feel like you are falling behind. It knows the relationships you do not have and the achievements you have not reached, and the version of yourself you are most afraid of never becoming. And it uses that knowledge not to help you close the gap, but to keep you scrolling through the feeling of it. Because the scroll is the product. Your unresolved wanting is the engine. The political system requires your confusion to function at the scale it currently operates. A population of people who know what they want out of their lives is a population that is extraordinarily difficult to organize around abstract collective grievances. When you know what you are building, when you have a clear vision for your own trajectory and a daily practice of moving toward it, the question of which political team you belong to becomes far less consuming than it is for a person with no personal direction to absorb their energy. Political identity fills the void that personal identity leaves empty. It gives you a tribe when you have not built one around shared work and genuine purpose. It gives you enemies when you have not identified the actual obstacles in your own path. It gives you a story about why your life is the way it is that locates the cause entirely outside yourself, which is the most comfortable story available, and the least useful one for anyone who actually wants to change their situation. The problem will not solve itself by being examined more thoroughly. This is the central mistake that intelligent people make more than anyone else, because intelligent people are good at analysis, and analysis feels productive even when it is producing nothing but a more detailed map of the hole you are already standing in. You can understand a problem from every angle. You can trace its origins, identify its causes, predict its consequences, describe its texture with extraordinary precision, and still be exactly where you started, except now with more evidence of why the situation is as bad as it is. The mind that is fixed on the problem is not a mind that is moving toward the solution. It is a mind that is deepening its relationship with the obstacle. And the deeper that relationship gets, the more real and immovable the obstacle becomes. Not because the obstacle grew, but because your attention fed it. Whatever you give your sustained focus to expands in your perception. The problem you cannot stop thinking about does not stay the same size. It grows to fill the space your attention gives it. There is a version of you that already exists on the other side of every problem you are currently facing. That version got there not by dwelling in the full weight of the obstacle until the weight became unbearable, but by pointing their attention past the obstacle toward the opening on the other side. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending the problem does not exist. The problem exists. Acknowledging it takes a second. Understanding it well enough to know what kind of solution it requires takes a few more. But after that, continued attention on the problem is not diligence. It is paralysis wearing the mask of thoroughness. The solution lives in a completely different direction than the problem. It requires a different quality of thinking, a different posture of mind, a forward orientation rather than a backward one. You cannot think your way to a solution while your entire attention is consumed by the architecture of the problem. The solution requires you to look away from the problem and toward what is possible. That shift is not a small adjustment. It is the whole move.